Welcome to the Success Mindset Podcast, where we empower you to unlock your full potential and achieve greatness. Join us as we explore the transformative power of your mindset and uncover the strategies that will help you conquer your goals and create the life that you've always dreamed of. So buckle up, get inspired, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Success Mindset Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about mindset and leadership, growth, and the things that help you think clear so that you can lead better and follow through more consistently and create results that actually last. So today I want to slow down and talk about something that people hear all of the time, but they don't always stop long enough to think about. Mindset. People hear phrases like mindset matters or mindset is everything. And after a while, those phrases can start sounding like background noise. You hear them enough and they lose weight. But mindset isn't just a motivational idea. It's closer to an operating system. You don't always see it working, but it's influencing what you're doing all day long. Have you ever had one of those weeks where nothing major actually happened, but you still felt behind? You looked at your list, you knew what needed attention, you had good intentions, and yet mentally you felt heavy. You kept telling yourself that you'd get to it later. You need to think more about it. You're going to start Monday. And then frustration starts showing up because you know what to do, but you're not doing it. I've seen this happen with business owners, managers, sales professionals, people who are highly driven. So most inconsistency, it starts internally before it ever shows up externally. Behavior is usually where we finally notice it. A lot of people think that mindset means trying to force positive thoughts all day. That's usually not what I'm talking about. Mindset is the collection of beliefs, assumptions, habits of thinking, and internal conversations that are running quietly in the background. Most people, they don't even notice them anymore because they've repeated them so many times. Sometimes we tell ourselves things like, I'm not ready, or I don't want to mess this up, or I've always struggled with this, or I'll do it when I feel more motivated. After a while, those stop sounding like thoughts and they start sounding like facts. I say this often, and you've probably heard me say it. You're always moving in the direction of your mind's most dominant thoughts. Your mind eventually starts gathering evidence for whatever story it has accepted. And so inside the GRIT framework, goal mastery gives direction. But goals by themselves, they don't create movement. People set goals every single year. Energy is high, motivation is high, everything feels exciting, and then life starts happening. Pressure shows up, energy drops, schedules, they fill up, right? Then people immediately assume discipline disappeared. And sometimes discipline wasn't the issue. Sometimes they're trying to build new behavior on top of old thinking. Can you imagine building a house on unstable ground? You can work harder, you can build faster, you can buy better materials, but eventually the foundation starts affecting everything above it. And so mindset works the same way. Think about two managers walking into the same difficult conversation. One manager thinks this is probably going to become a mess. Another thinks this could be uncomfortable, but we'll work through it. Same conversation, different interpretation, different emotional response, different behavior, and different result. Mindset affects interpretation, and interpretation affects action, and action affects results. I remember watching people who constantly looked busy, but they never seemed to move forward. Their schedule, looked packed. Their energy looked exhausted. Every day felt full, and yet they felt stuck. And sometimes they didn't need another planner or a productivity system or even an app. Sometimes they were carrying a mindset saying, if I slow down, I'm falling behind. And so they stay busy. Busy and productive, but don't automatically mean the same thing. And so if your thinking is constantly driving urgency and reaction, eventually you're going to start spinning your wheels. And so this is where people sometimes they misunderstand mindset. Mindset isn't pretending problems don't exist. A strong mindset sees reality clearly without allowing reality to take control of every decision. You can acknowledge pressure, right? You can acknowledge uncertainty. You can acknowledge frustration and still keep moving. Leadership usually shows up in the small moments. It shows up when plans change, right? It shows up when somebody gives feedback or when somebody disappoints you. It even shows up when you disappoint yourself, because eventually the question becomes, what meaning am I attaching to this? Two people, they can experience the exact same event and walk away carrying completely different stories. I like what James Allen wrote. He said that a person is shaped by what they think. And for me, the practical version sounds more like this. Your repeated thoughts eventually become your repeated behaviors. And so repeated behaviors eventually become your results. And that doesn't mean that every random thought defines you. We all have difficult thoughts. We all have moments where we feel overwhelmed, and we all have moments where confidence drops. What matters is what keeps repeating, what keeps becoming a belief, what keeps becoming a pattern. So here's some practical thing for you to do this next week. Listen to yourself. Seriously, pay attention to repeated phrases. Maybe it's, I don't have enough time, or I'm overwhelmed, or I've always been this way, or I'm not good at that. Don't judge yourself, just notice it. Awareness comes way before adjustment. If you don't see the pattern, you can't change the pattern. And so here's your take-home action for this week. Write down one repeated thought that's affecting your behavior. Only one. And then ask this, is this actually true, or have I repeated the story long enough that I've stopped questioning it? Sometimes growth starts with questioning something that you've assumed for years. And so as we wrap up, remember this. People spend years trying to change outcomes while protecting the thinking that created those outcomes. Small internal shifts eventually become bigger external results. And so keep paying attention to the thoughts that you're feeding, because eventually they're going to influence the direction that you move forward and towards. And so keep the fire burning, keep moving forward, keep taking ownership of what you can control. And I will talk with you next time. Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode of the Success Mindset Podcast. Remember, you have the power to shape your destiny and create the life that you desire. If you're ready to take action, subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. Share it with your friends and your family and help us build a community of like-minded individuals striving for success. Until next time, stay motivated, keep learning, and let's continue to achieve greatness together.